Close out of these. And then maybe let's... Can I resize this? Or no, it just captures the whole window. Alright, well, I thought this would be a little fun to do while I decide on what to actually stream later. Switch is probably going to jump on here. But IGN did this What's the Best Final Fantasy Game Ever, and I kind of wanted to just cover it. I thought that'd be cool. I can make myself a little bit bigger here since I'm not focusing on a game. Let's yeah, and then let me take the background removal off. There we go. And let's resize this guy. Let's just resize this whole thing. I think that because it's just this little window here, so it's not like it'll be a big deal if it's a little off. Okay. There we go. And then make myself a little bit bigger there. Okay. Yeah. All right. There we are. It's so weird. I'm never usually this big on the camera. Yeah. Let's see. Let's rate these Final Fantasy games. So there is Final Fantasy Realm Reborn. So I did this before, and Final Fantasy 14 is they just put it as a Realm Reborn. So I'm going to obviously select that one over Final Fantasy Legend 2, which is a game I've never played. I believe that's for the Game Boy, though. Final Fantasy Legend 3 versus Type 0. Another game I haven't played. I would assume Type 0 is better, though. I do want to play Type 0. I've heard very mixed things about it. Final Fantasy 2 versus Final Fantasy 12 Revenant Wings. I don't like Final Fantasy 2 at all. And Final Fantasy 12 Revenant Wings is a 3DS game or a 2DS or a DS game. DS or it's just a regular DS game. Yeah, so I'm gonna go with that one because I don't like Final Fantasy 2. Theatrhythm Original versus Final Fantasy Tactics. I would say Final Fantasy Tactics. I haven't actually played Final Fantasy Tactics in a long time, but I would assume I know that that's a better game. Now for the other Theatrhythms, then probably might be more fun in my idea. The Final Fantasy Legend, don't know what that is. We're gonna go with 11, even though I've never played that. Final Fantasy Curtain Call versus Dirge of Cerberus. Dirge of Cerberus is not it, man. It's it could beat some of the very lower ranking ones, but not by much. Same with Crisis Core, definitely better than Final Fantasy Adventure. Let's see, we've got Mystic Quest versus Final Fantasy 12. Final Fantasy 12, just having newer mechanics, definitely edges it out there. Although I did play Mystic Quest when I was younger. That was one of the first Final Fantasy games that I emulated when I was like 7, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. And I kept thinking that I was doing something wrong because the game was so easy. And I'm like, is this supposed to be more difficult? And I wasn't exactly an expert gamer when I was younger, so that just shows how easy it ended up being. I'm going to turn up the lights in here a little bit so that it's not just fully bisexual lighting. All right, let's see. Brightness. That's a little better. Okay. Camera can actually capture more of the frame. You got my DK bongos in the back. Yeah, so Final Fantasy 12 will edge that out. Final Fantasy X versus Final Fantasy VII Remake. Now this is where I thought Switch was going to be in here so that he could be upset by this. And now... Okay. Final Fantasy X is probably... Man, specifically, if I was actually just ranking them in my mind, I think Final Fantasy X would beat out Final Fantasy VII Remake. Not by a ton, but by just enough. Lightning Returns, Final Fantasy 13 versus Final Fantasy 16. 16 all the way. Lightning Returns, not also really not it. Advertisement. Final Fantasy 8 versus Tactics Advanced. I think if I had played Tactics Advanced, I would choose that. But in this scenario, I'm gonna go to 8 just because I haven't played Tactics Advanced. Or any of the Tactics games. Final Fantasy 4 versus Dissidia. Final Fantasy 4. Dissidia, either of them, they're fine. They're fine games. I don't think that the combat is like amazing. It's it really, I don't know. It's just all the Dissidia games are, and not just the main two on the PSP. There's also ones on the mobile. They're fine. Very fan servicey, but yeah, we'll go with Final Fantasy IV. Probably have more to say on that once it comes up against something that's better. Final Fantasy IX is definitely better than 10-2. 10-2 is, man. Let's see. No, I do not want to create an account. Thank you very much. Final Fantasy 13-2 versus 13. 13-2 is much better than 13, and I will die on that hill. Crystal Chronicles versus Stranger of Paradise. Stranger of Paradise. Crystal Chronicles is fun, but it'd be more fun if I was able to play it local multiplayer. Ends up being kind of more of a hassle than it's worth at this point to try to play Crystal Chronicles. Either through Dolphin or through the Nintendo Switch. Hey, John. Howdy. I am ranking the Final Fantasy games. I just did this because Switch, I was asking him if he wanted to play Cuphead, and he seems a little lukewarm on it because I don't think he wants to download Parsec, so... really? You love Ring of Fates? What... I'm going to choose Final Fantasy V because this is just like a head-to-head. It's not like if I was actually, doing like a tier list, I think they might end up being different because this is like randomly generated which game will go against the other. But yeah, I love Final Fantasy V. It's probably one of my top 3 favorite ones, as you probably remember because you were there when I played it, John. So I'm picking that, but that's good to know that it has some, some love. So if it comes up later against another game that I haven't played, I don't know what Tactics 8-2 is. So, and I love Final Bar Line. War of the Lions versus Explorers, two games I haven't played. Yeah, let's just eliminate the ones that these are all duels that include this candidate. Yes, because I don't know anything about it. Honestly, that's a fair reason to like a game, and especially Final Fantasy games, because a lot of times you go back and they're like still good. Even if they're not great, they're still good enough. 2 more games I haven't played. I don't know what a King's Tale is. I'll go with World of Final Fantasy because I didn't really like Final Fantasy 15. Dissidia versus 6. 6 was my first Final Fantasy. And Dissidia is cool because it's got all the different Final Fantasy characters in it, but the combat is fine. I don't know. The story is not really there. So Final Fantasy VI will win against that. Crystal Chronicles: The Crystal Bearers. I don't know. The Crystal Chronicles has like 6 games in the series, and we have played just the one. So I'm not really at liberty to be an expert, especially if they're cohesive or not. So I will go with 15. Final Fantasy 3 versus 7. I do really like Final Fantasy 3. Obviously, John, you were there. You watched me play Final Fantasy 3. That's when you zoned in on my channel. So seven is seven is better, and it has more of a legacy too. But I really do like three. If three was up against quite a few of these others, it would edge it out. My Life as a Dark Lord versus Crystal Chronicles: Echoes of Time. Again, two more Crystal Chronicles. I haven't played either of these. I'll go with My Life as a Dark Lord because that sounds fun. Final Fantasy versus My Life as a King. We're going for the OG Final Fantasy. Oh, Crisis Core. Final Fantasy 14 ends up being pretty high. Legend 2 and 3, those are the Game Boy ones. I don't know anything about them, so I'm just going to go with Legend 3. Revenant Wings versus Tactics. Tactics. Still need to actually play and beat Tactics, but Final Fantasy 2 versus Theatrhythm. I don't like Final Fantasy 2, so Theatrhythm's going up. Dirge of Cerberus versus Legend. I'll go Dirge. Bartz and Cecil. I love Bartz. I mean, I watched that whole anime that they did, and I was like, I really like this because I really like this world. I think it's genuinely the first great Final Fantasy game. I love 3. I think that's the first genuinely great Final Fantasy game, and then 4. They just escalate in how good they are from there. Yeah. I'm gonna go Theatrhythm because I haven't played 11. I'll go Mystic Quest because I've played Mystic Quest before. Lightning Returns versus Remake. I'm going Remake. Lightning Returns is... I'm so lukewarm on that game. Let's see. 12 versus Crisis Core. This is the original Crisis Core, which I technically didn't play. I played the redo of Crisis Core, so I'm gonna give it to Final Fantasy 12. But if it was the remastered version of Crisis Core, that would beat it out. Tactics versus Dissidia. I played Dissidia, so I'll go with that. Final Fantasy 10-2 versus 13. Now that's tough. That's a really tough one because I like the world of 10 a lot more than 13. And the first 12 hours of 13 are pretty rough, which is a tough thing to say about any game. But the last half of 10-2 is really rough. And the story is very confusing. That's fair. 13-2, one of my favorite Final Fantasies, but yeah, I'll go with Yuna. Final Fantasy X versus 16. Now this is where if Switch was in here, I'm sure he'd have some opinions, some pretty specific opinions. I if it wasn't for the sphere grid, God, the sphere grid just... Fair enough, Aneve. Fair enough. Yeah, I think 13 in my mind has grown, but I think that if I replayed it, I wouldn't enjoy it like I didn't really enjoy it the first time. If I look back on the footage, it's probably like the first 14 hours I'm just bitching and moaning about it. So yeah, I am going with 16. I'm going to 16. I love active combat, so we are going to go with Crystal Chronicles because, again, I've only played that one. I don't know either of these. I'll go with Tactics A2. I don't know. Final Fantasy 8 versus 4. 4 is a better game. 8 8 when it comes to the mainline Final Fantasies for me is pretty low tier, in all honesty. So I'm going with 4. I gotta go with Dissidia because I played that one. I hadn't played Crystal Bearers. Final Fantasy 3 versus Crystal Chronicles Echoes of Time 3 because I haven't played the other one. I wish I was able to say like, oh, I didn't play these 8 games or whatever. 13-2 versus 9. Okay, so yeah, Final Fantasy really does get a bit of the emo phase. 9 is the one that like is like, okay, well, this isn't emo, you know. And it has so much. It has so much. But I really loved 13 too. These are like in my top 5 Final Fantasy games. I think 9 has more to offer someone who. I think 9 is probably an overall better game. I think I enjoyed 13-2 more. But then again, I ended up 100%ing 13-2, and that ended up being kind of a lot to do. And I think 9 being a pretty streamlined experience is going to edge it out. But 13-2 would really rank up there. Um, I don't know either of these. I'll go with My Life as a King. I don't know. Stranger in Paradise versus Final Fantasy V. Final Fantasy V, absolutely. Theatrhythm beats out random side games. I haven't played 11, so I gotta go with Dirge of Cerberus. Theatrhythm Final Bar. I hadn't played the other one. Final Remake is much better than that one. Crisis Core is better than Dissidia. Final Fantasy VI is better than World of Final Fantasy. Just fucking choose Final Fantasy X too. I liked Final Fantasy X too more than 10. I'll say it. I'm not a coward. Just kidding. I'm going with 10. Crystal Chronicles. I haven't played A2. Final Fantasy VII is better than 15. I'm not even going to entertain 15. 8 is better than Dissidia. 13-2 is better than 3, in my opinion. All of these are my opinions. I'm going to go with OG Final Fantasy because I haven't played the other one. I'll take this one out. Yeah, eliminate, please. Stranger of Paradise versus Theatrhythm. The original Theatrhythm I never actually played. I've only played the 2 sequels. So I'm going to give Stranger of Paradise 1 because I did actually like that game. So this stands in for all of Final Fantasy XIV. It's not actually just a Realm Reborn versus Crisis Core Reunion. I'm going to give it to 14 because it is a monumental game. But that's just because it's in like my top 5. I'll go with. I'll just eliminate this because I don't know what Final Fantasy Explorers is. Final Fantasy VII Remake is better than Crisis Core. Yo Switch, I'm ranking the Final Fantasy games for fun while I was trying to figure out what I was going to stream. So that this is the IGN list where it's just a head-to-head and it's randomized, so it's not like a tier list. So it's not like, oh, this game is better than this one. We'll see. We'll see, Switch. We'll see if it is. I liked Theatrhythm more. I haven't played Tactics, not in a long time, and I definitely didn't beat it. Final Fantasy X beats out World of Final Fantasy. I enjoyed Crystal Chronicles more than Final Fantasy 15. Yeah, my basement has carpet. It's all carpet. So far, I think I've ranked 10 above everything that it's gone up against. Are you asking why the basement has carpet? It came that way. I'm going with 16 here. The red shag carpet, oh, it's honestly works super well in the rest of the basement. It's hard to explain because you wouldn't think that red shag. We took out the carpet upstairs, but in the basement, keeps it nice, keeps it warm. The dogs love it. I'm not going to get rid of it. 13.2 is better than 8. I will definitely say that. I just got to eliminate this. I don't know what that is. Final Fantasy 9 versus 4. Yeah, my wife loves it. And I love the shag. And it fits in with the sort of there's a bar in there, or that there's a bar in there in the basement, came with a bar. So I don't know. It's it all fits together really well. Um, I'm gonna go with 9. I think 9 deserves it more. Reunion is better than Stranger of Paradise. Remake is better than Dirge of Cerberus. Final Fantasy V is better than Theatrhythm. Final Bar Line. 10 is better than Tactics because I haven't played Tactics. .12 versus Crystal Chronicles. If I was playing Crystal Chronicles by myself, it wouldn't really rank very high. So I'm gonna take it with that in mind, and I'm gonna put 12 because it's a better single player experience. Final Fantasy VI versus Final Fantasy VII. Ooh. I have more nostalgia for 6. I'm going with 6. I'm going with 6 above 7. 13.2 is better than Type 0. Yeah, it's too bad about Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles being like, oh yeah, it's built for co-op, but to play co-op, it's like one of the worst. It's like one of the most complicated experiences you could have had during the 6th generation of gaming with Game Boy Advances and link cables and if I would have rented it from just rented it from the store and been like, oh, I'll play Crystal Chronicles, which I did do at one point. I remember when I was younger because I rented a game like every week. I didn't really get it. So that's my first memory of Crystal Chronicles. Reunion versus 4. I'm gonna go with 4. I don't know if I can explain that one, but that's what I'm gonna choose. Final Fantasy XIV is better than the original. Theatrhythm Final Bar Line versus Remake. I would rather play Theatrhythm Final Bar Line than a lot of these games, so I'm going with that one. 10 versus 12, no brainer. 10. Curtain Call versus 16, 16. Final Fantasy 7 versus 13.2, 13.2. I like 13.2 more than 7. Final Fantasy versus Final Fantasy 4. 4 beats that out. I feel like 5 hasn't come up a ton. Final Fantasy 5 versus Final Fantasy 9. Okay, I say it and then it brings up Final Fantasy 5. I like Final Fantasy 5 almost the most. Final Fantasy 10 versus Final Fantasy Final Bar Line. I'll give it to 10, but it's very close for me. 13.2 is better than Curtain Call. I don't know if I would say that it was better than Final Bar Line. Final Fantasy 14 is better than 6. 13.2. 13.2. It's gonna be Final Fantasy 13.2 for me, dog. Versus 10, but that's not too many losses. It's still gonna be up there. 5 versus 16. 5. Final Fantasy 9 versus 6. 9. 13.2 versus 16. 16. Love 16. 5 versus 14. I'm gonna go with 5. Aniv, stop using bots. I hate that it did that successfully. 16 versus 9. I'm gonna go with 9. Nine versus 14. Now this is confusing. I'm gonna go with 14. Okay, the final face-off. What do we got? 14 versus 5. I'm going with 5. It's my favorite. Yep. Things go crazy. All right, so let's see. And again, this is randomized. This is not how I would normally do a ranking, even though I've never done a ranking. But yeah, Final Fantasy 5, never lost. 4 wins, 1 loss. Yeah, it had less. I don't know. That ranks 2. But yeah, here's my top 5 Final Fantasy games: 5, 4, 13.2, 14, and 10. 16, 9. Final Fantasy 7 Remake. Final Bar Line is better than Curtain Call. This is not a good way to do this. If Switch was secretly an Eve, I would not be shocked. That'd be something that I'd be like, I could see it. It would have taken a lot of time though. Probably too much setup. So yeah, that was that. That had come up on IGN like a week ago, and I'm like, oh, that'd be fun to do on stream. So. Now I wonder if there's go to template. So if I was just doing I gotta move this around a little bit. Let's see. These advertisements are aggressive. Okay, so I just want to do this so that it like makes a little more sense, I guess. 5 is S tier. 9 is S tier. 8 is C. 11 doesn't qualify because I don't know about it, so I'm gonna just put that in B. 15 is C. For After Story, I haven't played it, so I'm gonna put it in D. But I haven't played it, I'm just gonna put it in D. I'll put this down here too. Final Fantasy 4 is in A tier. Final Fantasy 14. See, this actually splits Final Fantasy 14. Switch, you said that yesterday that you weren't going to jog anymore during the streams, and you know what? I don't believe you. Final Fantasy 14, the original versus some of the expansion packs. I'm going to put 14 in A tier. I'm going to put Shadowbringers in S tier, and ARR, and this one. These are all S tier. All S tier. 16, I am going to put... I'm gonna have to sort these out. Let's see. Now, I technically haven't played Shadowbringers, but I played A Realm Reborn is the original. So this is the OG. Okay, no, I haven't played the OG. I've only played A Realm Reborn. Okay, I can't remember the name of it. Um, I haven't played Revenant Wings. Haven't played that one, and I haven't played that one. Okay. Now, yeah, now is the last time again. Final Fantasy 1, I would put in B tier, 7 in A tier, 6 in A tier, 10-2 in A tier, 10 in S tier, 13 Lightning Returns in high C. You're going to get to be a high C. 13-2 in S tier, 13 in B tier, 3 in A tier, 12 in high B tier, and 2 in actual D tier. This is an actual D tier game. Hold on. Let me get this all sorted out before I say this is 100% how it would be. Okay, I just had to get them in the right tiers. So let's see. 13 Lightning Returns, 8 is better than Lightning Returns, 15 is better than Lightning Returns. I'd say this is right. Okay. 3 is better than 10-2. Is 3 better than 6? No. 7, 4. Is 4 better than Final Fantasy 7? Yeah. I like Final Fantasy 6 more than that. Let's see. It's hard. It's so hard to do Final Fantasy 14. I'm just gonna do one Final Fantasy 14 and say that's the whole of it because otherwise this is just way too confusing. Um, let's see. 5, 9, A Realm Reborn, or 14, 16, 13, 2, 13, 2. I'm gonna put higher. 9 is probably better than 13, 2. 5, 9, 13, 2, 14, 16, 10, 4, 7, yeah. Yeah, this is probably where I would place everything. Um, so this is what I think of Final Fantasy. I love the ads that are just playing during stream. You can watch an ad in an ad, especially if an ad is playing right now. But yeah, I just wanted to put that out there. Wanted to get all my ducks in a row. And piss off Switch a little bit, just for fun. Okay, let me pause the music here. All right. John, did you want to do Cuphead? Switch says he's unpissoffable as he has been yelling that he's never going to jog to my streams again. I don't know. That sounds a little pissed. Maybe pissed isn't the right word. Livid, disconcerted. The library. Okay, sounds good. I will get Cuphead loaded up. Being in high A tier isn't like saying that it's a bad game. I'm ranking them on the scale of other Final Fantasy games, which are some of the greatest games of all time, you know. So, high A tier, you know. I think that's pretty good. I do love the kamikaze Sid. I love how he just fucking and then he doesn't actually die. He kamikazes himself, but he's like, no, that's not gonna actually kill me. All right, Cuphead. Let's beat up Satan. Okay, let me get Parsec up.